Yeah, good morning. It's a great pleasure that we can open here the Fear of Life Symposium, Fear of Life, the city as a habitat to all. But before I will start with my short introduction, I will pass the microphone to our president, Gerhard Bast, who is welcoming us here in this very particular space.
Thank you, Brigitte. Yes, welcome everyone to the next symposium organized by the Department of Social Design. Thank you, Brigitte, and your whole team. It's again a fabulous program with wonderful guests, wonderful speakers, participants. I hope you will enjoy this symposium, which again is focusing on a very important and recent topic. You are starting from what happened last year, the so-called refugee crisis we had to read in several newspapers, and how it came that fear became the dominant atmosphere in this country. And if we recall what is migration, it's kind of astonishing. Migration, if you look back at the history of human evolution, if you look back at the history of civilization, it's all about migration. The history of our civilization is a history of migration. So we should think that migration should be part of our human genes, which would not allow to see migration as something you have to fear from. Migration always was a chance, it was always difficult, it was necessary for the progress in our civilization. And a lot of people think we have had a peak last year and we will overcome, and this will be seen as a peak in the next years. I don't think so. This was just the beginning. So if we realize what is happening all around the world and what we, the Western world, contributed to the globe, we clearly have to say that this would go on. So in the last decades, we shifted manufacturing to Asia, to Africa, and people had poor work there. We shifted parts of intellectual work to Asia, coding, finance, things about services in business. What will happen if all these jobs, all these work will be replaced in a few years by robots, by computers, by algorithms, by artificial intelligence? These jobs in Asia, in Africa, will disappear. This will be no more human jobs. And maybe, and there are the first discussions about that, even the robots will come back to the Western world. The key word is re-industrialization. So what then will happen to these areas? Migration still, as it always was in the history of human civilization, will be a thing we have to face. Anxiety, in uncertainty, ambiguity, things like fragility and multidisciplinarity. These are things which we have to learn to deal with. And who are the masters of these things. It's the arts. The artists are the masters of dealing with ambiguity, of uncertainty, also making narratives. So what we have to do is we have to give the arts a place in our society. We have to make it possible that people know how to deal with uncertainty. They know how to deal with ambiguity, so that they not must hear to people who give the simple answers. And we have to teach them. So again, and it's always the same in the human history, it's about arts, it's about education, and it's about an economy who makes all this possible. So let's concentrate on these three things, and a lot of them will be topic at this symposium, and I'm very grateful about that. I wish you fruitful discussions until tonight, and I'm sure you will take with you a lot of ideas and a lot of inspirations. Thank you very much.
So the introduction to the introduction is dealing with the photographer who is working here shortly, and I hope this is fine with you because we are also contributing to the Vienna Design Week, which is ongoing, and he asked me to ask you for...
If you want to be in the picture, please hide for those minutes. Anywhere you want to film, as a film,
Thank you for being careful. Dear colleagues, dear friends, speaking for the Social Design Studio, a group of teachers and students from different backgrounds, students and teachers from different generations, working together under the headline Social Design, Arts as Urban Innovation, we are very pleased to welcome you. Fears of life seem far away, seem to be somewhere out there, while we are protected in here in the spaces of the former Prelatur, the originally private apartments of the abbot of a monastery located in the region outside Vienna. The apartment and the whole courtyard outside belong to the oldest areas in the historical center of Vienna. The apartment houses embracing the courtyard are even dating back to the 12th and 13th century and are also described as the oldest Viennese Zinshaus, meaning a building with rented flats which is still in function today. Such genius loci is reminding us also of the fact that old orders have thoroughly changed and have been changed not only since these buildings have been constructed. What brings us here are the actual and not entirely surprising political conditions of life in small Austria and many other bigger countries. In our teaching team of artists, designers, design researchers, architects and urbanists, as well as the group of students coming from their different cultures, countries and educational curriculums, we develop projects that aim to show that societal but also social innovation, meaning extraordinary results and unexpected approaches, become possible where different forms of knowledge, instincts and methods interact, where acoustic acumen combines with creativity from sciences and humanities, where design theory, architecture and the fine arts not only pool their strategies, but also enter into confrontations and alliances that can be both risky and productive. The term innovation, our subtitle is Arts as Urban Innovation. The term innovation is highly contested, not only among actual political circumstances and not only in Austria. The readings and shortcuts of the term might either reduce it to an ongoing demand of competition leaving behind what seems to be less functional and at the moment, or simply just out of fashion. Or it tends to sketch a better future if the innovation would be ever realized, saying innovation and arriving at a promise. Many stereotypes regarding the triggers for innovative processes are known, being true and debatable at the same time. Are innovations mainly emerging at the margin of societies? Could they be really described as mostly bottom-up processes? Are innovations only future-driven? Or should we look for them in the past? How fast have innovations come into reality? Are innovations results, or are they the beginning of a process? So, the crucial questions are: in what ways, through which methods, do urban studies or artistic projects in the context of social design meet notions of innovation? Our master program focuses on researching, reflecting, and aiming to develop artistic methods, applying them in urban contexts or contexts underlying developments of urbanization. The crucial question remains: does it rely now more than ever on the arts or artistic methods to create prospects, to freely counteract strong tendencies and realities when parts of our society discount their future, verzichten auf Zukunft, explode in resignation? Not only young people experience political structures and their representatives seeming to fail, and who are not able anymore to set actions, and who are only playing on high risk. Fear, respectively, the creation of anxieties, has become a much too powerful instrument of political persuasion. Solidaric processes are undermined, if not destroyed. Future is discounted. If circumstances do obviously not improve at all, they should not get worse anymore. Es soll sich nichts ändern. Everything should stay as it is. How do notions of innovation come into play in an atmosphere of rebordering Europe? Some projects and approaches you will find in the first issue of the Social Design Reader, written and edited by Barbara Holub, also speaker of this morning, who was a visiting artist at the Social Design Studio in the last year. How could artists, architects, urbanists, how should intellectuals act now, and from where? Should they change the context of the work? Should they start to focus already on much younger generations? Or should they establish safe spaces inside institutions? Big questions, and maybe the answers could be found in distinct, if not pungent, words, in highly precise and detailed actions, in repeated social acupunctures in both virtual and analog spaces. Many expectations we are directing on ourselves, and which were the motivation to organize this day, which had been so generously founded by our university. So I would really thank our guests for their effort and support, for their energy they are sharing with us. Your voices, your contributions, your approach, standpoints, and experiences will be an important part for the future development on the aims and tasks of future social designers. And generally speaking, the role artistic methods and urban studies will play in actual and future existential matters. What field and methods of action could be brought into discussions? How should innovation be discussed and materialized in given circumstances as we are both witnessing and undergoing now? A day like this is the work of many, and therefore let me thank particularly Christina Schrammel, Miriam Hübel, Karolina Plaschkova and Christian Schienold, whose input was so essential to the program. To Jasmin Vogel and Alessia Scuderi, who turned the planning into reality, and to Joanna Zabielska and Alejandra Loreto for the pierogi empanadas fusion you will experience in the lunch break. Let me finish here and introduce an intense day with reverence to Zygmunt Baumann's essays, Strangers at Our Door, and the 90-year-old sociologist also puts an opening at the end of his book. To counteract fears and anxieties, we will have to speak in person, across borders, speak with people following very different ways of life, Such conversations, dialogues or discussions can be a pleasure or a pain, but one thing is certain, they are inevitable. They are inevitable because they form the starting point. They are creating a process up to the moment which Ludwig Wittgenstein has described, jetzt weiß ich weiter. Now I can go on. And this is what we want, going on now with words and actions. Please welcome with me our guests and our audience.